The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon. You're listening to BCIT's The Crow. My name is Gina Tang, and I have your news updates to 3 p.m. The bird population in Canada has changed over decades. Some have shown growth while others have declined. Our reporter Vivek Nakar has more on the story.
The British Columbia's coast supports the life of a lot of marine species. This coast is also a major corridor for millions of migratory birds traveling to and from breeding grounds elsewhere in the continent. According to the Rainforest Conservation Foundation, many marine bird species on this coast have seen a decline in last 50 years. There is a large concern about threats to marine birds due to lack of information about them, particularly during seasons other than summer. Vivek Nakra, BCIT's The Crow.
An estimated 16,000 trees may be removed from Stanley Park. Reporter Tammy Mack explains why this is necessary.
Crews are in the process of removing dead trees from Stanley Park. According to Brendan Bastiovansky, Park Board Chair, the high volume of people that use the park every day mean that this is necessary for everyone's safety.
We have 18 million visitors to the park every year. By having the trees fall down at random times means that huge areas of the park would have to be shut. And not just to pedestrians, but for volunteers and workers. That means that the invasive species that are currently in there would take over those areas where people would not be allowed to go because of the danger level. You can't have volunteers working underneath dead trees. It's incredibly dangerous.
Bastiovansky also says this gives them an opportunity to strengthen the forest with new, healthier trees. Tammy Mack, BCIT's The Crow.
Tammy is now joining us live in studio. So Tammy, how are they planning to strengthen the forest?
Well, the majority of trees in Stanley Park right now are hemlock trees, which aren't the strongest species. So they were initially planted as logging trees because they grow so quickly, but they're vulnerable to climate change and pest. So to replace them, the park board will be planting 100,000 trees, and there will be a mix of Douglas firs, cedars, and alders. And they're all trees that are more suited for this climate and location. And with more diversity in the forest, it'll be able to recover and be stronger than if it was left as a monoculture.
And does the hemlock looper moth affect other areas too?
Yeah, Brendan Bastiovansky of Vancouver Park Board told me that the looper moth is not unique to Vancouver and it affects other regions, and those regions approach it in much of the same way as well. The practice of removing dead trees is also not unique to Vancouver, and it's a pretty normal procedure to remove dead trees in high traffic areas because they become a risk to people.
Thank you, Tammy. With the provincial election hours away, undecided voters can use this as an opportunity to learn more about each candidate. Reporter Keenan Tregaski has learned the importance of a debate this close to the election.
Premier David Eby, the Conservative Party leader John Rousted, and Sonia Furstenau of the Green Party meet on the debate stage tonight. Current polling done by 338 Canada shows the NDP and Conservatives neck and neck. With polling this close, Anne Kang, BC NDP candidate for Burnaby Centre, says undecided voters are presented with a great opportunity at tonight's debate.
Well, tonight's debate is an opportunity for our leaders to really highlight the top issues that they know matters to British Columbians. And there's more to hear on the leaders and echoes coming if they do miss it. But really listen to the inner voices and the passions of our leaders.
Advanced voting begins on October 10th, while the final day to vote is the 19th. Keenan Tregaskis with BCIT's The Crow.
In BC, leaders of all three major political parties have expressed the support for the province's Jewish community on the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. BC NDP leader David Eby paid tribute to Ben Mizrachi. Mizrachi was a Vancouver man killed at a campaign announcement in Maple Ridge in the October 7th attack. Provincial Green leader Sonia Furstenau issued a written statement saying the party members, quote, are committed to the safety of all British Columbians and stand firmly against hate in all its forms. BC Conservative leader John Rustad is saying there is a need to make sure people are safe and that anti-Semitism is taken head-on in the province. Rabbi Andrew Rosenbalt of the Shura Sadek Synagogue says the congregation has seen members from the broader community express support for Jewish residents in light of the attack in May. The congregation took place at the synagogue where the arson attack was targeted earlier this year. Instead, community members are treating it as a day of sadness and memory. Ezra Shakin, chief executive of the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver, says the federation has spent $100,000 a month. This is due to ongoing unease among the local Jewish community and patrons of other ethnicities. The money has gone towards security and public safety at its institutions in the last year. Parliament now is in its 8th straight sitting day of debating a Conservative motion related to a demand for the Liberals to provide unredacted documents. The debate is about misspending at a now defunct green technology fund. House Speaker Craig Fergus on September 26th ruled that there was a case for privilege, but that the matter is complicated because the motion calls for the documents to be handed over to the RCMP. Tory leader Pierre Poilievre spoke to reporters in Ottawa about Fergus' suggestion the matter should be all referred to a parliamentary committee for further discussion.
We're not just going to let $400 million of corruption be swept under the rug so Justin Trudeau can get on with his day. So we say, let's end this now. Let's get Parliament back to work by handing over the documents to the police so we can bring home accountability. Thank you.
Poilievre isn't allowed to speak in the House of Commons today due to his public feud with Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly. House Speaker Greg Fergus delivered the penalty after asking the leader of the opposition to withdraw a remark made yesterday. The leader accused Joly of pandering to supporters of the terrorist organization Hamas. Joly called Poilievre a hypocrite as she spoke to reporters in Ottawa today.
He cozies up to groups like Diagolon, who spread neo-fascist ideology across this country. Why does he denounce their anti-Semitism as well?
A Boston man shot a teacup chihuahua named Bear, claiming it was menacing his chickens. The British Columbia Provincial Court judge said that the man was not justified in killing the animal. The court said in a ruling published online many of Baru's Ramani year-long feuds had been with his neighbor and dog owner, Glenn Kurak. The disputes, quote, centered around Kurak's, according to the ruling. The ruling said Ramani, Farr's tiny dog, had roamed onto his property several times with about 60 chickens in his property, up until March 3rd, 2022, when Farr used a .22 caliber rifle to shoot the male dog in the head. The ruling says Ramani Farr called police and reported that he shot the dog to, quote, bring peace to his life. He believed that BC's Livestock Act allowed him to kill the animal because it was, quote, threatening his chickens. The court found the law doesn't apply to chickens and that Bear was in a, quote, immediate risk. According to the judge, Peter White, the man's ongoing anger at his neighbor and frustration with RCMP led to Ramani's Farr convicted. A sign at Wilson's waterfront home was defaced with spray paint over the weekend. This comes after Vancouver billionaire Chip Wilson erected a sign on his proper estate saying, quote, the NDP is a communist. New Democrat leader David Eby says who he and Rustad is siding with.
He's on the side of Chip Wilson. He's on the side of the billionaires and the real estate speculators. And I'm on the side of the people who are trying to get by or facing higher costs and struggling in different ways. That problem is not going to get solved with spray paint. The problem is getting solved with votes.
Eby has told Wilson at Campaign Stop saying he understands that he may not be the Lululemon founder's guy. Canadian AI pioneer Yoshua Benohi said he was delighted to hear colleague computer scientist Geoffrey Hinton win the Nobel Prize for Physics. Ben Joshua was a grad student when Hinton made several of his machine learning breakthroughs in the 1980s. Hinton shares this year's Nobel Prize for Physics with Princeton University researcher John Hopfield. Today in Burnaby, expect overcast skies with light showers and a high of 13 Celsius. That was your news update to 11 o'clock. My name is Gina Tang, and you're listening to BCIT.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
that's what this power play needs. They got to be connected, and they have to understand it's not about always setting up a play. It's more of...
Good afternoon. I'm Grace Miller with your 3:15 Sports Update. In sports top news, the NHL season has opened. 3 games will begin the 2024-25 season today. The first game is already underway in Seattle between the St. Louis Blues and the Seattle Kraken. The score currently is 3-0 Seattle, and we are in the second period. In the arena just before the game, Jordan Eberle was announced to be the captain of the Kraken. He is the second captain in franchise history. During the game, Kraken assistant coach Jessica Campbell is making her regular season coaching debut, making her the first female assistant coach behind the bench for a regular season game. The teams head into the match this year with last year's stats of the Blues winning all 3 games against the Kraken. The Seattle team has made some roster adjustments ahead of the season that might put them in the lead. Brandon Montour is a new defenseman from last year's Stanley Cup winners, the Florida Panthers, and center Chandler Stevenson is a new addition from Vegas Golden Knights, who won the Cup the previous year. The second game this season is between Utah Hockey Club and Chicago Blackhawks. They'll play at 4 p.m. It is Utah Hockey Club's first ever game. The team was formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes. It's also Clayton Keller's first game as captain. Then the Florida Panthers will close off the day against the Boston Bruins at 4:30. The Canucks will start their season tomorrow against the Calgary Flames. Ahead of their start, the Canucks have made another roster move, placing defenseman Mark Freeman on waiver to the AHL. Their game will be in Rogers Arena at 7 p.m. It is also a big day for the WNBA. The Minnesota Lynx will face off against the Connecticut Sun for the final of a semifinals best-of-5 series. The game will be on Lynx home court in Target Center at 5. With New York Liberty already set to play in the finals, the game today will decide who goes up against Liberty. Sun coach Stephanie White shared in a press conference earlier today her motivation for the game.
You know, job's not finished. We got to come back and we got to be able to be even better because we know they're going to make adjustments.
The Suns go into this game having tied up the series at 2 games apiece on Sunday. Players to take a look at this game will be Sun player Ty Harris, coming off of a big performance last game. She hit a career-high 20 points and 3 rebounds, and Alyssa Thomas finished up just shy of a triple-double. In other basketball news, RJ Barrett is out for the rest of the Raptors' preseason with a sprained right shoulder. Barrett left Sunday's 125-98 preseason victory over the Washington Wizards in the second quarter with a right shoulder injury due to him crashing into a marketing sign. Toronto will play the Wizards in Washington on Friday in the Raptors' second preseason game. Over to baseball news. The New York Mets are up by 1 against the Philadelphia Phillies in the bottom of the third. It is a pivotal game in the series as the winner will be up against the winners of the other game that's happening today between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres over at Petco Park. This game follows the Padres incident in Los Angeles. During the game, the outfielder Jerickson Profar was seen talking with a fan in the bleachers from the outfield. The fan then began throwing baseballs and beers onto the field. Their next game starts at 6. This has been your 140 Sports Update. My name is Grace Miller for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Vancouver Canucks extended Niels Hoglander to a 3-year, $9 million contract on Sunday. This extension leads me to believe Hoglander is primed for a big season of 30 goals in a larger role this season. When Rick Tocchet took over as head coach midway through the 2022-23 season, Hoglander accepted a demotion to the AHL and worked on improving the defensive side of his game. Hoglander gained the trust of Coach Tocchet last season, scoring 24 even-strength goals in 80 games played, averaging only 12 minutes and 6 seconds of ice time per game. Hoglander had more even-strength goals than star players such as Elias Pettersson and former Canuck captain Bo Horvat last year. I believe Hoglander is ready to reward the Canucks for their patience and support with a big season. Playing in the top 9 forward group and secondary power play unit will give Hoglander more opportunities to light the lamp and progress as a player. This contract rewards the young forward's steady progression as a player since his debut in the COVID-shortened 2020-21 season. It also serves as a symbol of faith the Canucks have in Hoglander to be an impact player for their team. My name is Zach Arabko, and this is today's Sports Comment.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the lower mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.